control what happens with our politicians. And finally, the most insidious is that they control the media to lie to us about what's really going on. So that's pretty much the problem in America today. They, establishment politicians, left and right, corporations, and oligarchs, the people that run our country, the people who control our society. Really, it is the corporations and the politicians that are screwing us all over because the corporations are greedy. It is 1,000 individuals. It's the Forbes 400 list. Go look right there. Because really, these people are greedy. They are so greedy. They have taken way more than their fair share. They've taken the money from us. Because really, the people up top, it's a mutual beneficial relationship. That's what it should be. They need us and we need them. So we work as a team to make sure that the vast majority of us can achieve security. Because that's the point of a society, right? It's not just so that a couple billionaires can get super rich and all of us work for them. The point of a society is so that the majority of people can achieve security. And really, we should be working together because the people up top, they do need us. That's one of the lies when I was talking about those insidious lies from earlier that they tell. One of the main lies that they tell us is that we need them way more than they need us. That we ride on their backs. That they don't ride on ours. That we are expendable. But let me tell you this. What do those billionaires bring to the table? Literally one thing. Money and maybe organizational structure. But we can find money in other places. We can crowdsource that shit. We can find organizational structure in other places. So what they bring to the table, we can replace. But when that billionaire owner wants to grow and expand beyond what only they can do, what do they have to do? They have to go hire other people. So what they bring to the table, we can replace. What we bring to the table, hard work, they cannot replace. So technically, they need us more than we need them. But that's why they tell us lies. And thank you. My name is Corey. Nice to meet you, Canna Rocker. And that's why they have to tell us those lies. Because if we realized that, they wouldn't have all the power anymore, would they? And no, this is not a handout. This is our back pay. Because we're the ones that did the work. As we just went over, that person could not grow and expand without other people's help. And when you offer someone a job, you're essentially offering them, hey, I will give you enough to live. Because if you're offering a job and that job doesn't pay enough to live, well then, honey, I'm sorry, you can't afford to offer that job. Because if you're offering a job that does not pay enough to live, this is what all Republicans here doesn't understand. The rest of us pay for it. Because if you offer a job that doesn't pay enough for food and housing, that job is a net detriment to society. Why do we say that? Because if somebody isn't paid enough for food and housing, they're working 40 hours a week to make somebody else money, and then that rich person who's offering that job isn't paying that person enough to live, what happens when that person doesn't have enough for housing? Well, they go on public housing, and we all pay for it. What happened when that person goes on medical assistance and their healthcare is paid by all of us? But that is where the billionaires are the ones who should be paying their fair share. That's one of the lies that they're telling us, that when one person is underpaid, that it only affects them. But really, 80% of Americans are being underpaid. 80% of us cannot afford a $5,000 emergency. And when 80% of people, 208 million people, cannot afford a couple $1,000 emergency, that is a rigged system. That is the people at the top taking more than their fair share, that they are offering jobs. Why do they offer jobs? They offer jobs so they can make more money. I've got 7 locations and over 30 employees. Every single person that I hired makes the company more money. I could choose to lower their salaries so that they have to go on public assistance. I could pocket more money and you all would pay for it. That is what is happening right now all across corporate America. And it used to be we had some levers of power to actually push back. Because if they treated people like that, we would, number one, talk to the politicians. No, I just don't talk to idiots. So when I'm on here and I've got something to say, and somebody like you who has not shown that you've got one piece of reasoning in your body continues to spam the chat over and over, I will not talk to you. Now you get a little mute because you're annoying. So what were we talking about? The people up top have taken more than their fair share. They don't pay us enough for food and housing. And goddamn, we need money to live. That's it. Money doesn't buy happiness, but money buys housing, money buys healthcare, and money puts food on the damn table. So yeah, when we go to do work for you and we make you money, yeah, we expect to have just enough to live. And really, if we have just enough to live, if we're just living paycheck to paycheck, which is barely scraping by. I hate the term paycheck to paycheck because really it's, oh, I'm just one step away from financial ruin, but I've got this nice little term so that we can joke about it. Paycheck to paycheck. So the last 2 comments, those are extreme. We need to take our first steps, have to be smaller steps together. We can't jump over the ledge without having a safety net there in place first. So what we have to do is that phase 1 is gathering people together. That's building the momentum. Because as we build the momentum, we have to build new systems along with it. Essentially, all that's happened is this system doesn't provide the majority of us with security. That's all it really is. The majority of us can't have access to resources, money. So when we don't have access to resources, we don't have enough for food and housing. When we don't have enough food for food and housing, we don't have security. And if the majority of people don't have security, then everyone is going to be one step away from financial ruin. And if we're all one step away from financial ruin, we're going to be living in fear. And if we're living in fear, we're going to listen to the lies that the media company that they all own is telling us about. I know, that's what I was laughing at, Dazzlecat. The mental gymnastics is hilarious sometimes because I don't really see people push back against the truths that I talk about. They try to derail, distract, divide. Yeah, that's really what it is, K-Swiss. And then those billionaires are literally just choosing to underpay us because they know that they can. So it already started. So it's September 16th through the 20th. The blackout is happening right now. Today is the big day, Constitution Day, September 17th. This is the one that the majority of people will be doing. But listen, this isn't just a one-time thing. This is not just a boycott. This is not just a blackout. We are building a community, and that's what we care about. You joining that community. Because what we're doing is we're taking the momentum that we've gained from this blackout and we're using it to incite a culture shift. That is the only way that we are actually going to fix things, because this administration is the symptom. This administration is the symptom. Our country had to walk through many doors before we got to here. They completely dismantled our economy. The mom and pop shops are totally gone. It used to be when a company treated us like shit or treated their employees poorly, we would go shop somewhere else. We would go work somewhere else. But we can't. We don't have that ability. That was literally one of the things that protected us the most, the free market. But that's gone. They got rid of all the mom and pop shops. I'm almost 40 years old, and I think I've seen one general store in my life. And then count it with the, there are hardly any more local pharmacies, grocery stores, hardware stores, newspapers, banks, all gone. And you can't tell me that it's just a coincidence that Americans under 40 are the first generation in our parents' history to be worse off than our parents. In our country's history to be worse off than our parents. No, easy. That is not the way at all. Revolutions that are done through word or change that is done through words is much more likely to last long term. And really, we already have the power. All that's really happened was they got rid of all the competition, so there's no more alternatives. They own all the media, so they lie to us. And then, yeah, it feels like we're so divided. But that's really what I like to say is we're in a house and we're arguing over what color to paint the walls and how to rearrange the furniture. But meanwhile, the foundation is crumbling. So we need to take just a minute to stop fighting about where we need to put the furniture and the walls and take care of our foundation. Because that's where the establishment, the people up top, the career politicians, the corporations, and the billionaires, they own and control everything. And when we point fingers left or right, when we say, oh, that side's the problem, oh, that person's the problem, a billionaire sits back and smiles because we're doing their work for them. We are playing right into their hands. And that's what's so funny. It's usually the people that think they're so smart and so cool and coming on in, and they point fingers left and right. And we all just kind of chuckle because it's like, hey, you think that you're good, but really you're kind of just doing the work of the billionaires for them. So this is difficult because we got quite the rigged system. There we go. Sean Hall came right in and made our point for us. Whereas even we are talking about not pointing fingers left or right, if you cannot understand that both parties are two sides of the same coin, and that coin is in a mother effing billionaire's pocket, then I got a bridge to sell you. Both parties are just good cop, bad cop. Some of us think one of them's good cop. Some of us think the other one's good cop. But they are just there to distract you. They are just there so that you continue to hate your neighbor instead of loving them. And that's really the problem. Aren't you just sick of being mad all the time? That's really what it comes down to me. Aren't people just sick of frickin' fighting all the time? And one of the ways that we wouldn't fight so much is if people had more money. They'd be like, yeah, that person's crazy. I got a nice house, though. I got a nice family. I can afford it all. I'm not afraid. I'm not living in fear. I'm not living paycheck to paycheck. My life's pretty good. Screw that person. I'm just going to go about my day. I think so many more people would do that if they weren't getting screwed over at work. And number one is we don't have identity, right? That's really the biggest issue. They've taken our identity. So there's where the mental health crisis is coming from. Because it used to be, because basically if you are working your ass off at a job every day and they underpay you, well, you don't have any self-respect because you're like, shit, I'm working so hard and you're not paying me. So you don't get respect from your job. We don't talk about our job. When somebody goes, oh, what do you do? Are you like excitedly like, I do this and I make this money for a billionaire? No, you're just like, works